West Australia is probably the world's biggest mining economy, and we are very closely tied into Japan, China, Korea, and increasingly India. Most of those countries, with the exception of Japan, did not get much affected by the global financial crisis. They are increasingly being driven by internal growth.
Australia, and obviously Western Australia's growth, has been powered by the boom in demand from countries like China and India. Now, there are reports that China may be slowing down. What sort of impact is it likely to have on you?
I don't think China will slow down, and I meet frequently with the Chinese political leadership, and they assure me that China's growth rate will continue at least 7 or 8% or more. I think China has probably got another 20 years of growth.
What's your view on the strength of the Australian dollar?
It is high, and that primarily reflects the weakness of the United States dollar. My guess is in time that it will ease back a little bit, but so long as commodities are in high demand and the price of commodities are high, the Australian dollar will be fairly high.
How constrained are you by the shortage of skilled labour?
Yes, the state only has 2.3 million people, and at the moment there is $107 billion worth of resource projects either in construction or going into construction, and there's another $194 billion at various stages of assessment and feasibility. So skilled workers, engineers, all sorts of professionals, welders, plumbers, electricians, we do need them literally in tens of thousands.
So what are your views on Wayne Swan, the Treasurer's plans for a carbon tax?
Well, the carbon tax is an issue where most in Australia, myself included, believe we are getting ahead of international policy in that area. I am also very sceptical as to whether a carbon tax will actually bring about fundamental change in consumers or indeed in production. And I would prefer, for example, to see Australia take simple measures to increase the use of natural gas for power generation in Australia. I think that would have a more certain effect and would be largely costless to the Australian consumer.
Have you ever thought of seceding from Australia as a whole?
No, and while Western Australia did vote to secede in the 1930s, it didn't happen, and I don't support secession. But I think what is happening is Western Australia is by default becoming far more financially independent. And unless the Commonwealth Government recognises that and has some fairness in Commonwealth-state relations, it is inevitable that the Australian Federation will weaken. And a line that I often use is that Western Australia looks over the horizon to Asia, not over the Nullarbor to Canberra.
So how productive has your overseas trip been?
There's been a number of purposes. I started in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and that is a very important market for meat from Western Australia and increasingly for grain production. And we are looking at encouraging a more modern commercial arrangement between those importing countries so that we can play a role in producing high quality agricultural produce and help those countries in that region achieve food security, which is probably their biggest issue.
And what about tourism? People in the Gulf have got a lot of money.
They do, and many people from the Gulf region and the Middle East region, I suppose, generally tend to fly across Western Australia and often holiday in the Gold Coast. And the Gold Coast is a great place, but we did talk about at least occasionally varying it and coming to Western Australia. So I think we've got a lot of opportunities. And Western Australia, while it is the leading mining economy and trades in global markets, we are looking at establishing within our region a special relationship with Singapore and a special relationship with the Emirates.
Do you think that here in Europe, business leaders have any idea of the pace of change in Asia?
No, I don't. Certainly the world's international businesses are aware and involved heavily in Asia, but come down one level from that, I don't believe European and including British businesses are fully aware of the scale and the pace of change in Asia. And I also don't believe they have a good understanding of the differing systems of government.
Do you think business leaders here would be wise to look at the Australian experience?
I think it would be wise, and while, for example, half of China's economy now is described as private enterprise, the reality is all the big institutions and the traders in commodities are all state-owned enterprises. And we have developed not without its hiccups, but we have developed a good relationship in trading and dealing with those organisations, including the Chinese government at a senior level. So Australia provides a good model. So my only advice would be not be careful, but take the time to understand who you are dealing with, who are the decision makers, and understand the country and its system of decision making. And remember, it is a one-party state. It is different.